Okay, let's unpack this. We are embarking on a deep dive into some uh, truly profound source material today. It's a collection of texts detailing spiritual cultivation, the nature of destiny, and really the pathway to higher realms of existence. They call it the kingdom of freedom, or the realm of, you know, super celestial beings, Buddhas, the Elysium world.
That's right. And our mission here isn't just to read a few definitions. It's to extract the core, the actionable intelligence from this. We're trying to distill the principles and the precise steps needed for a complete metamorphosis of one's life structure, moving beyond the human world into, well, realms of eternity and freedom.
I have to say, the way the source material sets this up is absolutely magnetic. It starts with physics. It argues that if you think of a life, without any external spiritual forces, it just follows a fixed trajectory, an orbit. And that predictable path is its destiny.
Precisely. If you're only operating in the material realm, you are, for all intents and purposes, deterministic. And this is why the source says a skilled fortune teller can predict your future with such high accuracy. They aren't performing magic, they're just calculating that fixed orbit. They're predicting a planet's path.
But this is where it gets interesting, right? This is where cultivation just slams into that physics analogy. The moment spiritual perception is awakened, what happens when that new force is introduced?
That is the crucial turning point. That's the moment the script gets thrown out completely. Once that perception is activated and the source equates enlightenment directly with this destiny is taken off that fixed track. It's placed entirely in your own hands. It becomes fluid, unpredictable, even to the greatest fortune teller.
So you go from being a planet to being the one who controls the forces.
Exactly. You introduce infinite new variables.
That reframes destiny from, like, a prison sentence to a choice.
Yeah.
So if the goal is to move beyond that fixed human path, the first thing to understand is the cosmic scorecard. Before you gain control, what rules are governing things like reincarnation? What's the consequence map?
Well, for those still on that fixed trajectory, without awakened perception, rebirth is rigidly determined. It's all about moral alignment and behavior. The standard is meticulous. It's a complete cosmic grading system.
Okay, let's walk through that hierarchy, starting from the top.
The highest levels are for specific spiritual achievements. Those who embody the greatest love become super celestial beings. Those who show the utmost benevolence, selfless action, they ascend to become Buddhas. And if a person lives a life that's, generally impartial, balanced, they just return to the human world.
Okay, so that's the neutral and positive. What happens when the moral alignment starts to descend?
It follows a lack of awareness, really. People with, say, muddle-headed or confused minds, they fall to the animal world. A state of just complete indifference, a spiritual vacancy that leads to reincarnation into the plant world.
And the really negative consequences. You mentioned specific layers.
Yes, the source describes specific realms for intentional harm. Wicked intentions, greed, selfishness that sinks the soul into the ghost world. And for those who are intentionally evil, who committed systematic violence or were truly cruel, they fall into either the inflamed layer or the frozen layer.
Wait, hang on. Let's pause on that jargon for a second. Inflamed and frozen layers. What are those exactly?
Think of them as differentiated consequences, calibrated almost. The source suggests the inflamed layer is the suffering of intense, burning passions, like hatred. It's the karma from violence. The frozen layer, on the other hand, is the consequence of spiritual coldness, complete indifference, a total suppression of compassion. You get this isolated, enduring numbness.
Wow. So the punishment is precisely calibrated to the nature of the sin.
It is.
So the goal of the practitioner isn't just to score high enough to avoid all that, but to transcend the entire system, to aim for the 1,000-year world, the Elysium world. It's about seeing life as this brief journey, appreciated but without attachment.
Exactly. The path is always striving upwards, but to even begin that ascent, you have to refine your vessel, and that starts with your heart, your internal operating system.
Which brings us to this prerequisite for bliss,
Yeah.
abandoning the self. This sounds so radical, especially compared to Western individualism.
It is radical. The cultivator's heart has to align on 4 different levels. First, with the hearts of common people, you bear the world's sorrows, feel its happiness, but without personalizing it.
So profound empathy. What are the other 3?
Second, it aligns with the heart of all things, so merging with nature. Third, with the universe, a sense of belonging to the cosmos. And crucially, it aligns with the heart of gods and Buddhas. Revering Jesus as a father, Buddha as a teacher, this is foundational.
The pinnacle is described as totally lose the self, attain a state of blissful openness. The Source literally calls the self an impediment, a devil.
Hmm.
But if you abandon the self, I mean, how do you even function? How do you act?
See, that's the key. The self it's talking about is the small, fearful, reactive ego. That's the obstacle. Abandoning it doesn't lead to inaction. It leads to fearless, intentional action because there is no attachment to the outcome.
Can you give us some, relatable examples? How does this self-abandonment actually free you from common suffering?
Okay, take professional envy. That jealousy over someone else's wealth or status, it's one of the quickest ways to attract disturbances. If you genuinely transform that small self into nothingness in your consciousness, that suffering just disappears. Instantly, there's no me left to compare to the other.
Right, you're just observing the universe at work. That's a powerful shift.
Or think about the worry we have for our children, our parents. It's a natural attachment. The Source says this anxiety is relieved by considering oneself as non-existent. If the anchor of your worry is gone, the anxiety surrounding their future is relieved.
Wow, that's intense. It's suggesting that my worry is really about my own ego, my attachment, not just pure concern. It's asking you to prioritize cosmic peace over human instinct.
It is. Even anger from being insulted or misunderstood, it just vanishes. There's no self there to be insulted. The insult hits an empty space. The real source of suffering is the heart when it's filled with worldly concerns. The solution is always to transcend by letting go.
Okay, so we've covered the spiritual state required. Let's get into the methodology, the nitty-gritty. The Sources define this not as religious faith, but as a science. Why that framing?
Because a science relies on three things: laws, verification, and methods. Cultivation has to follow objective laws, the Tao. It has repeatable methods, and you can verify the results. But, and this is crucial, it requires consistency. It's not instantaneous.
So no shortcuts, no instant enlightenment pills.
Absolutely none. The wisdom is emphatic on this point. 3 feet of ice does not form in a single day. A tower begins with a heap of earth. People who look for shortcuts, they often end up tormented, exhausted, falling into madness, as the text says. It's a painstaking process. Small, quantitative changes in your daily life have to accumulate before that big qualitative change, the metamorphosis, can happen.
So let's look at those foundational methods, the elementary self-improvement practices. What's on the checklist?
It begins with the mental landscape. The Sources prioritize prayer, but it's redefined. It's more than asking for things. It's about envisioning your highest goals and sending that intention wave into what the texts call the negative universe.
The negative universe. What does that mean here?
In this context, it's the spiritual realm that sort of processes the energy of our material world. When you send a powerful intention, it gets processed. The Source even notes that if something seems to go wrong after a sincere prayer, it often means it should be postponed. It's a hidden blessing. The classic example given is the people who survived 9/11 because of, a missed train, a late alarm, divine course corrections.
That completely reframes disappointment. It becomes a form of guidance. Now let's touch on one of the most specific and frankly intense pieces of advice in there. Handling difficult spousal relations.
Right. The guidance here is entirely focused inward on the practitioner's accountability. First, you have to accept the hardship as debt repayment. You are doing this to pay off past karmic debts.
Is voluntary accounting.
Exactly. Second, you don't try to change them. The Source says a leopard can't change its spots. Trying to change them is like trying to change the universe itself. It just causes frustration. And third, it demands total non-attachment. Even if a spouse has an affair, the advice is to pretend to be deaf and dumb. The overarching instruction is to bear your own sins, not pass them on through resentment. It's an extreme form of personal accountability.
It really shows how much the Source prioritizes that debt repayment over, normal human emotional conflict. Shifting gears a bit, what about information consumption? Managing external influences.
It strongly advises minimizing TV, idle chat, newspapers. The reason is that idle chat is just harmful speculation, gossip. It's detrimental. It drags your consciousness down into the mundane. Instead, you focus on books that enlighten wisdom, cultivate temperament. You have to be extremely deliberate about what energy you allow into your mind.
And what are the foundational moral cornerstones here?
Filial piety is number 1, the foremost virtue, showing profound gratitude to your parents. And conversely, lechery is the greatest evil. The consequence is stark. It will degrade the soul to the animal level in the next life. The rules are absolute.
So these elementary practices build the foundation, but the ultimate goal is that metamorphosis from human caterpillar to butterfly. You mentioned this follows a program set by consciousness, but what's the fundamental force that tries to stop this from happening?
That would be the ultimate constraint of the mortal realm. The law of gravitation of life. This isn't physics, it's cosmic accounting. The law says gravity exists between any destined lives. This is the glue that pulls the soul back down.
So if it's like a cosmic rubber band, how is this tension calculated?
The pull is directly proportional to the debts you owe to those lives, people, places, and inversely proportional to the favors you've done for them. Family, possessions, reputation, they all act as chains. The text reminds us of Jesus' words. You won't leave until you pay the very last farthing. You can't ascend if you're in cosmic debt.
So every single attachment, every possession is a potential chain pulling us back. How does the cultivator even begin to pay down this immense cosmic debt?
Two primary methods. First, suffering and persecution are highly effective ways to offset past sins. You have to accept them without resentment. But the best method to accumulate credit or wealth in heaven is through formless almsgiving.
Let's clarify that, formless almsgiving. What does that mean in practice?
It's providing deep, transformative benefit to others or the world without ever seeking credit or recognition. So, contributing to pioneering new eras, sharing profound truth, helping someone achieve a real spiritual awakening, that kind of giving generates merit that weakens the gravitational pull.
And as this process advances, the practitioner reaches this state of being unconscious of the boundary between oneself and the external world. It sounds almost inhuman.
Well, the text suggests the practitioner has little humanity left. They've attained a Buddha nature, and the criteria are absolute. The world's suffering doesn't affect you personally. A loved one's death brings no sadness. Losing all your possessions leaves you unfazed. You've transcended the illusion.
We have to just pause and acknowledge that this material is asking us to rewire every single innate human instinct. Love, grief, self-preservation. It's a terrifyingly serious commitment.
It is. The journey to heaven is described as long and full of traps, designed to test that very last inch of attachment.
So if the stakes are eternity, what's the key discipline to ensure you make it?
The key is to have a dead heart. Now, that doesn't mean being heartless. It means giving up the thought of alternatives. No more comparisons, no being blinded by temporary earthly things. You have to be absolutely singularly determined.
So the roadmap to the kingdom of freedom requires this strict adherence, and the choice is always between that freedom and the temptations of the world. We're warned not to look back, which echoes that biblical caution, right? Yeah. He who looks back while holding the plow in his hand is not worthy of entering the kingdom of God.
The plow requires forward sight only. Any glance backward risks re-engaging that gravitational pull.
We have seen the blueprint for life's progression, from a fixed destiny to paying cosmic debts, all culminating in this profound detachment. So if the ultimate goal requires a dead heart, a focus so intense that looking back is forbidden, what small everyday attachment that we justify as normal or harmless might be our greatest anchor right now? What's the one thing silently guaranteeing that we stay bound to this material world? What seemingly trivial expectation or resentment or desire must we be determined to die to today to loosen the grip of the law of gravitation of life?